Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is March the 18th, 2024. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. I will say it has been nice and chilly. Not emphasis on the nice, more emphasis on the chilly. I'm cold. But chili is kind of a nice segue. I didn't do too much on Sunday, out after the podcasting. Just did some hanging out. But I did make a fun meal for myself, something a little different. I made pizza, but of course, it's like I say, you've made pizza before. You've made all kinds of pizzas. And it's like, yeah. But this one was my first stuffed crust pizza. So I finally dreamed a little bit bigger, and I'm glad for me, I hit the mark. But this wasn't just any stuffed crust pizza, of course. You know me. I did a bratwurst chili stuffed crust pizza. So to me, this was a big undertaking. Though really, when I actually wound up setting out to do it, it wasn't that bad. I just needed a lot of mozzarella cheese sticks and a bit of folding skills, which of course there's still room to be desired there. But I will say I pulled that bad boy out of the oven and I was pleased. I was so happy. And I gotta say, it tasted great. I loved it. I will say, I don't know if I'm gonna do it again anytime soon. Maybe not ever again to that level because I mean, it was just so much resources, and I think to myself, my God, the amount of calories I've ingested eating this beautiful thing, it's probably not worth it. But it was nice to do one time. Also, I added some like the base was obviously the chili. Like that goes without saying. I feel like, but whatever. Then I added some red onions and some mustard and some cheese. So yeah, I mean like cheese on top, of course, on as well as the stuffed crust. But yeah, I mean it was really hella yummy. Oh, and then I guess I almost forgot I had a side of sushi that I impulse bought at Kroger. And I was like, well, I'm gonna eat a couple of these pieces today. Why not? So yeah, I mean, it was an overall yummy dinner. I was very pleased and very poached. I was full. Yeah, overall though, a good day, and then we had a good day today. Work was work. So yeah. All right, enough of me yapping about my day, my days. Let me go ahead and do my startup, and then we will get into some news. All righty, Rune. Ooh, our first story comes from NPR. Israel's military launched an overnight raid on Gaza's largest hospital. The largest medical facility in Gaza, Al-Shifa Hospital, was the site of a raid by the Israeli military early Monday morning, with reports of gunshots, a fire breaking out on the complex, and according to the military, at least 20 people killed. I will say too, I avoided using like some publications and stuff because like with Reuters or whatever, they were just like, oh yeah, no, they just ran with the Israeli tagline of like, no, we only hit gunmen, we only killed 20 gunmen. That point blank period. That's what it was. Which when you get into the narrative, there's a little bit of a dispute there, which hopefully we can get into, but I didn't like that, so that's how I kind of wound up landing on NPR. When I notice it, I do like to try to say, hey, here's some spin here, here's some spin there, because I feel like it's important to call it out. Let's see here. The Israeli military said it was operating to thwart terrorist activity in the Shifa hospital and carrying out precise operational activity in order to track senior Hamas terrorists allegedly inside the building, where displaced civilians have taken shelter. If this sounds like deja vu, it's because this has happened before. I believe in November of last year. They raided Al-Shifa Hospital. They've raided other hospitals to, about the same effect, for the same fucking reasons. And, I mean, that should be considered a war crime. Their response is, well, there's terrorists here, and that's why we were here. So we're justified in doing so. Despite whoever gets caught up in the crossfire, despite whatever fucking happens, we're allowed to do this. That's how we perceive the ways of war, according to the IDF. But during the activity, terrorists opened fire at the troops from within the hospital. The troops responded with live fire, and hits were identified. Our troops are continuing to operate in the area of the hospital, the Israeli military said in a statement. Let's see here. Yes, the Israeli military said it killed 20 terrorists in the operation, including Fak Mabu, which it identified as Hamas's head of internal security. However, the government media office in Gaza said I'm getting that name wrong, I'm sorry. Ma'u was in charge of the coordination between tribes and the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, or UNRWA, to bring humanitarian aid into Gaza. Mabu was carrying out purely humanitarian civilian work, and he should have protection and freedom from harm under international law, the office said. Whereas instead, the IDF is subverting that and saying, no, this is a prime example of a terrorist. We know he's a terrorist. And they do this shit all the fucking time. It makes it very hard to believe and trust and verify what the fuck they're saying, because it's just, there's so much conflict to it. And when you go back in the fucking timeline, you just see this shit happen over and over and over again. There are some more I wanted to pull here. The IDF, or Israel Defense Forces, also reported one 23-year-old IDF soldier killed in the raid. Let's see here. There was something else I wanted to pull. Al Jazeera said that while the raid was being carried out, one of the outlet's correspondents, Ismail Al-Ghul, was reporting on the scene when Israeli authorities beat and arrested him. Al-Ghul's broadcast vehicle, cameras, and equipment were all destroyed. He has since been taken into an unknown location, Al Jazeera said. Which is insane to do. This is literally like a journalist. This is press. These are people who are supposed to be cut out, set apart. You're not supposed to be doing anything like this. I mean, you shouldn't be doing this to anyone, period. Let me stress that for the record. But the idea of saying, no, we don't care. You're on the battlefield and you're a combatant to us, and we'll treat you like that. We'll treat you however we want to treat you. It's insane, but this is not new. This is something that they've been fucking doing. The network emphasizes that this targeting serves as an intimidation tactic against journalists to deter them from reporting the horrific crimes committed by the occupation forces against innocent civilians in Gaza, Al Jazeera said in a statement. The media outlet called the incident part of an ongoing attack on Al Jazeera staff by Israeli forces, which includes the assassination of Shireen Abu Akleh, Samir Abu Daqqa, and Hamza al-Daoud. The bombing of its office in Gaza, the deliberate targeting of a number of its journalists and their family members, and the arrest and intimidation of its crews, the statement said. So yeah, I'm not saying that I'm like, I'm burnt out or whatever, but it's one of those things where it's like, in lieu of like looking for stuff, I was almost like, is this something I need to cover? Like, is this kind of, because there's I've said this before, I'll say it again. There are so many things happening in Gaza and in West Bank, and I know that I don't want to oversaturate, flood the zone in a way, because I only have like 4 slots or so usually on average. And I'm like, you just talked about this a little bit yesterday. It can wait. But I'm like, no, don't. Like, I oftentimes find myself doing that, and I'm glad I kicked myself in my ass and I say no, because we need to talk about this shit. It needs to, stay on the forefront of people's minds that this shit is happening. But this shit has been happening, not just since October fucking 7th. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll say we called it though. We covered it here. Move on to the next beat. Let's see here from the Associated Press. EPA bans asbestos, a deadly carcinogen still in use decades after a partial ban was enacted. The Environmental Protection Agency on Monday announced a comprehensive ban on asbestos, a carcinogen that kills tens of thousands of Americans every year, but is still used in some chlorine bleach, brake pads, and other products. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I hear asbestos, my first thought is the pink stuff in your walls, in your home insulation or whatever, the forbidden cotton candy, if you will. I didn't think about it in chlorine bleach. I didn't know about it in goddamn brake pads or whatever. So I was like, oh shit. And I'm thinking about this and I'm like, man, when you think about it, shouldn't this shit have like been banned, right? Like if it's something I always feel like, oh, hey, make sure you always remember, don't eat this. Don't let this shit get anywhere near your face. Like, it's bad for you. It could kill you. Like, you would think then, like, we would find ways to just, like, not fuck with that shit. Because that's, like, lead. And, lead is bad, Fuck. But I'm saying this like I didn't just cover that, like, fucking cinnamon was fucking poisoned. All in the name of capitalism. Which, I'm sure is low-key the lying culprit here if I really dug hard enough. But let's see. That's not what this episode is about. That's not what this article is about. It's not what I'm about right now. Okay. Anyway, the final rule marks a major expansion on EPA regulation under a landmark 2016 law that overhauled regulations governing tens of thousands of toxic chemicals in everyday products, from household cleaners to clothing and furniture. The new rule would ban chrysotile asbestos, the only ongoing use of asbestos in the United States. The substance is found in things such as brake linings and gaskets and is used in the manufacture chlorine bleach and sodium hydroxide, also known as caustic soda. I immediately thought about caustic pop because just, Midwestern things, including some that is used for water purification. It's major. You would think this is like something that's a long time coming, but let's see here. I want to read a little bit further to get, I guess, my final thoughts on this part. With today's ban, EPA is finally slamming the door on a chemical so dangerous that has been banned in over 50 countries. This historic ban is more than 30 years in the making, and it's thanks to the amendments that Congress made in 2016 to fix the Toxic Substances Control Act, the main U.S. law governing the use of chemicals. So yeah, apparently, I'm gonna add in the way here. Oh man, I have to reset. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, okay. So apparently, the EPA banned asbestos in 1989, but the rule was largely overturned by a 1991 Court of Appeals decision that weakened the EPA's authority under TSCA to address risks to human health from asbestos and other existing chemicals. The 2016 law required the EPA to evaluate chemicals and put in place protections against unreasonable risks. So I'm glad that we've finally got here, but in some kind of ways we still have a ways to go. I know that at least in the short term, a ban on most other products or a ban on most other uses of asbestos will affect in 2 years. They also talk about the company chlor-alkali or whatever. You can read to kind of get more details there. I'm kind of gonna skip that part. But let me see here. That being said, the EPA rules allow asbestos-containing sheet gaskets to be used until 2037 at the U.S. Department of Energy's Savannah River site in South Carolina to ensure that safe disposal of nuclear materials can continue on schedule. But essentially, the American Chemistry Council, the chemical industry's largest lobbying group, said a 15-year transition period is needed to avoid a significant disruption of chlorine and several hydroxide supplies. So it kind of seems like maybe the EPA kind of erred on that side of the decision, which, I guess in a capitalist society, you got to say, hey, we got to worry about the price hikes. We got to worry about, the economic environment and what's going to happen if we pull the rug out of this too soon, too fast, and just the disposal of it as well. Which is, an important part, but I think to myself, man, that's crazy that we've known for so long that this shit is bad for us, and it's just been allowed to be in use. I didn't know it was in so many goddamn things. I just thought, like, once again, it was just in our walls or whatever. And then I was tra la la, whatever. Um, but hey, surprise, surprise. At least it's gonna be hopefully phased out in our lifetimes. But time will tell. We'll see. This shit changes like the wind. The way the politics and all that shit. But we're gonna call this good news, right? Question mark. I don't know. All right. Now on to what I would say is just out and out bad news. But we got a couple of shootings that took place that I wanted to cover from PBS News Hour. Police search for gunman after shooting in D.C. leaves 2 dead, 5 injured. 2 people have been killed and 5 others injured in a shooting in the nation's capital early Sunday. Police were looking for a single gunman after the 7 people were shot around 3 a.m. in the Shaw neighborhood of Washington. The 5 people who were injured were all taken to local hospitals, said Jeffrey Carroll, the executive assistant chief of the Metropolitan Police Department. All of the victims were adults. Police did not immediately provide details of the circumstances surrounding the shooting or the conditions of those injured. So I'll definitely keep you posted if I hear any more about them, potentially catching the suspect. But it's going to lead us to our last news story for the day. It was another shooting that was sadly pretty devastating, but at least I can say, hey, they've captured the person. But yeah, let me go ahead and take my last break, and then we'll go ahead and cover that. Ooh. All right. From CBS News. Suspect wanted in fatal shootings of 3 people in Pennsylvania surrenders in New Jersey, police say. A 26-year-old suspect wanted in the shooting deaths of 3 of his relatives surrendered to authorities in Trenton, New Jersey, officials said Saturday evening. The shootings occurred Saturday morning at 2 separate homes in nearby Levittown, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. Trenton police said Andre Gordon Jr. was taken into custody a couple blocks from the home where the standoff had taken place. Police said he had left the house before the standoff, and officers spotted him. The suspect has been located at another location in Trenton, and he surrendered peacefully, a Trenton police spokesperson told CBS News in an email. SWAT teams had surrounded a home on Phillips Avenue in Trenton where they believed Gordon may be inside with hostages. Trenton police later said all residents who were inside the home had been safely evacuated. Let's see here. Get this out of my way. According to Falls Township Police, the situation unfolded Saturday morning when a suspect allegedly forced himself into a home on Viewpoint Lane in Levittown. Karen Gordon, 52, and Kira Gordon, 13, were fatally shot. Karen Gordon is Andre Gordon's stepmother, official said, while Kira Gordon is his sister. Let's see. The suspect then allegedly moved on to a second home on Edgewood Lane in Levittown, where officials say he shot and killed the 25-year-old Taylor Daniel, who is the mother of Andre Gordon's children. Following the shootings and carjackings in Trenton and Bucks County, Pennsylvania, law enforcement tracked Gordon to the Phillips Avenue home. I believe he was homeless, and that's why he wound up doing the carjacking that takes him to the first home, and then later he does another carjacking, I believe at Dollar General parking lot or something like that, or outside of a Dollar General. Excuse me. But yeah, obviously it's a very unfortunate situation to occur. Also, he had an AR style rifle and potentially other guns. More details are, still, I guess, remaining to be disclosed there. I don't know how he got access to that kind of shit, without having, a home or a car. But I mean, this is America. I know it is very easy to do. Um, but yeah, obviously, it's very sad and it's very unfortunate. Um, you know, just completely unnecessary loss of life. Just taken away, like that. But I kind of put off covering it in a way, but I was like, hey, let's cover it today. Let's just get it out, a little bit of a bundle. Um, but yeah, that is the news for the day. I'm gonna go ahead and call it there. Call it an episode. If you'd like to help out, support the effort, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. I dubbed the a newsy and shout you out at the top of the month. Plug a project if you'd like. Free ways to hit me up, isaiahnews1@gmail.com. Also, you can follow me or the podcast on any of the socials you're probably on. And then hopefully you're subscribed to the YouTube. Really helps out a lot if you are. It's good for my algorithm, good for my stats. Trying to eventually get into that partner program or whatever. It's elusive, but maybe one day I might get there with your help. But really, if you're not listening to the YouTube, you don't fuck with YouTube, that's okay. Maxing out those star reviews are really great. Leaving comments are cool and awesome. Sharing is caring. I say that. That's a thing. But I mean, generally, just listening is great. I can't stress enough that you just taking part in this project with me, where I talk about myself and I talk about what's going on in the world and shit like that day to day. It's great. I love to see it, and hopefully you love to hear it. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, at least the good stuff. There's times where I'm funny and I talk about cool, yummy food. Yeah, that part. But yeah, that's it. That's all I have. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.